You ever notice how the moment you start wanting something real, something steady, something honest, the entire dating world suddenly feels like a minefield? Because here's the truth no one warned you about. Dating today isn't broken. Your expectations were trained to break you. Listen closely. I'm going to tell you something most men never hear in their entire lives. Women don't judge you by who you are. They judge you by who they expect you to be. And those expectations weren't created by love, loyalty, or connection. They were shaped by comparison, convenience, comfort, and the illusion of unlimited options. And every time you walk into a new relationship thinking, maybe this one will be different, you step into a game where the rules change the moment you start winning. You've probably felt it. That moment when a woman is enchanted by your mystery, your silence, your confidence, your independence. But the second you open up, the second you try to match her effort, the entire dynamic shifts. Suddenly you're too easy, too available, or not exciting enough. Not because you changed, but because her expectations did. Modern dating has conditioned people to expect perfection while offering the bare minimum. It has taught women to pursue the idea of a man, not the reality of one. And it has taught men to chase validation instead of compatibility. This is why so many of you feel like no matter how hard you try, you're always one step behind, because you're trying to meet expectations that were never built for a real, breathing, imperfect human being. But here's the harsh reality. Dating is not about what you give. It's about what you represent, your presence, your standards, your energy, your frame. People don't fall in love with your kindness. They fall in love with how your kindness makes them feel. They don't value your loyalty. They value how secure your loyalty makes them feel. And the moment you stop fulfilling the expectation in their head, they don't correct it. They simply detach. You were raised to believe that love is about effort. But today, dating runs on expectation, perception, and psychology. And if you don't understand how those expectations form, you will always feel like you're losing a game you never agreed to play. Before we continue, answer this for me in the comments. Have you ever felt like no matter what you gave, it was never enough? And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with a friend who needs to hear it. There's a quiet moment every man experiences, though most never admit it out loud. It's that moment when you look at a woman you genuinely like, and you feel yourself holding back. Not because you're afraid of her, but because you're afraid of what your honesty will cost you. You've learned, through trial, pain, and silence, that modern dating doesn't reward vulnerability. It punishes it. And even though nobody says this directly, you feel it every time you open your heart just a little too far, a little too soon. Here's the psychology behind that feeling. People today are conditioned to want without investing. Dating apps have created a mindset of endless backup plans, where expectation grows faster than emotional capacity. And when a woman sees a man's genuine interest, her brain doesn't interpret it as safety the way it once did. It interprets it as certainty. And certainty, in a world full of comparison, often feels less exciting than potential. This is why so many men feel they have to perform instead of simply exist. You're not dating a person. You're dating the expectations she has absorbed from 100 invisible sources. The harsh truth is this. Most women today don't walk into dating with curiosity. They walk in with a checklist. And that checklist isn't based on values, character, or emotional maturity. It's based on narratives, influences, trends, fear of missing out, fear of settling, and the illusion that someone better is always around the corner. So when she meets you, she isn't meeting you. She's measuring you against expectations she never created herself. This is why men feel confused. This is why you can do everything right and still end up feeling wrong, because you were evaluated before you were understood. But here's the twist that most men never realize. Expectations aren't the enemy. Unexamined expectations are. When a woman's expectations are shaped by insecurity, comparison, or entitlement, no man, not even the perfect one in her imagination, could ever satisfy them. And when a man's expectations are shaped by desperation or loneliness, he wipes out the very qualities that make him magnetic. What keeps you powerful in dating is not effort. It's clarity. Clarity about who you are, what you offer, and what you refuse to negotiate. Because when your internal compass is strong, unrealistic expectations don't intimidate you, they expose themselves. There's a moment in every man's life when he realizes something unsettling. Women aren't reacting to him. They're reacting to the version of him their mind created long before he opened his mouth. And that version can change in an instant. One misunderstood text, one moment of hesitation, one glimpse of vulnerability, and suddenly the entire narrative shifts. Not because you failed, but because the expectation she built around you wasn't real to begin with. This is where psychology hits hardest. Human beings don't date the truth. They date their projections. When she first meets you, she sees fragments, confidence, calmness, eye contact, your tone, your presence. Her brain fills in the gaps with assumptions. And this is why the beginning feels almost magical. You're not dealing with a person. You're dealing with who she hopes you might be. But as soon as she discovers the parts that don't match her fantasy, your flaws, your fears, your imperfections, the emotional shift isn't subtle. It's sharp, sometimes cold, sometimes instant. Because expectation breaks quietly but painfully, like glass under pressure. But here's the truth most men never hear. You're not supposed to meet every expectation. You're supposed to reveal reality, slowly, confidently, unapologetically. Too many men fall into the trap of overperformance. You want to impress, you want to be chosen, so you adjust your personality, your communication, your energy, just to fit into an image she never actually verified with you. You start solving problems that aren't yours. You shrink your boundaries, you tolerate disrespect, all because you're trying to keep up with a fantasy she projected, one that has nothing to do with your actual worth. Understand this deeply. A woman's expectations will always reveal more about her than about you. If she expects perfection, she's insecure. If she expects you to read her mind, she's immature. If she expects constant attention, she's unregulated. If she expects stability without offering peace, she's not ready. And if she expects a king while acting like a spectator, she doesn't understand what a relationship actually requires. Dating only becomes painful when you confuse her expectations with your responsibilities. They are not the same. You are responsible for being honest, grounded, consistent, and self-respecting. You are not responsible for fulfilling fantasies created out of comparison, fear, or entitlement. So ask yourself this, and drop your answer in the comments. There comes a point where every man realizes something brutally honest. The dating world no longer rewards genuine effort, only strategic presence, not because people have become heartless, but because expectations have become unrealistic, inflated, and disconnected from reality. And if you don't learn how to navigate them, you'll keep giving your heart to situations designed to drain you. Here's the psychological shift happening right now. Modern dating runs on two forces, validation and avoidance. Most women want validation. They want to feel desired, chosen, wanted, admired. But they also want to avoid emotional risk, accountability, and vulnerability. So they chase the feeling without committing to the effort. And you, as a man, end up becoming the emotional shock absorber for expectations that were never yours to carry. Think about how many times you've been blamed for her past wounds. How many times she expected you to fix insecurities you didn't create. How many times she used silence to test your interest, jealousy to test your patience, or expectations to test your value. Not because she wanted to hurt you, but because she wanted reassurance without offering reassurance back. This is the paradox of modern dating. People expect loyalty before they offer commitment. They expect emotional support before they give emotional stability. They expect effort before they show appreciation. And they expect you to be a mind reader while they remain a mystery. But here's the truth you were never taught. You don't rise by meeting unrealistic expectations. You rise by setting unshakable standards. A man with standards is dangerous, not because he's harsh, but because he's clear. Clear men aren't manipulated. Clear men aren't pressured. Clear men don't chase validation. They choose alignment. And when you operate from alignment, something fascinating happens. The wrong women fall away on their own. They can't survive in the presence of a man who knows himself, because confidence exposes insecurity. Boundaries expose immaturity. consistency exposes chaos, and integrity exposes entitlement. The moment you stop trying to impress and start trying to understand, the moment you stop performing and start being, you stop becoming a candidate for her expectations and start becoming a standard she either rises to or loses. So tell me in the comments, you are responsible for being honest, grounded, consistent, and self-respecting. You are not responsible for fulfilling fantasies created out of comparison, fear, or entitlement. So ask yourself this and drop your answer in the comments. There is a truth most men feel but rarely speak out loud. Dating today doesn't fall apart because you're not enough. It falls apart because people expect connection without contribution. And when you finally understand that, everything changes. You stop blaming yourself. You stop overthinking every message. You stop replaying conversations in your head. You stop carrying the emotional weight that was never yours. Here's the psychological core of it. Expectations are easier to create than character. It takes no effort for someone to demand emotional intelligence, maturity, loyalty, stability, and consistency. But it takes a lifetime to develop those qualities. So what happens? People expect from you what they have never cultivated within themselves. They want your leadership, but not your boundaries. Your protection, but not your standards. Your consistency, but not your expectations. They want the benefits of a good man without the self-reflection required to be a good partner. And the harshest part is this: the better you become as a man, the more you expose what others lack. Your discipline reveals their excuses. Your clarity reveals their confusion. Your emotional control reveals their triggers. Your loyalty reveals their detachment. And instead of rising to meet you, many simply label you too much or not enough because it's easier than admitting they weren't ready for someone like you. But here's where everything shifts for you. You can't live your life trying to meet the expectations of someone who hasn't even met themselves. You can't bend your identity to fit their unresolved wounds. You can't sacrifice your peace trying to heal someone who hasn't chosen healing. And you can't build a future with someone who treats dating like entertainment instead of partnership. The moment you stop begging for understanding and start demanding alignment, you become powerful. You move differently. You choose differently. You stop chasing chemistry and start prioritizing compatibility. You stop responding to mixed signals. You stop tolerating disrespect disguised as standards. You stop shrinking your voice just to keep the peace. Because here's the truth. A man who knows his worth doesn't fear disappointment. He filters it. He doesn't avoid rejection. He welcomes clarity. He doesn't chase validation. He gravitates toward women whose actions match their expectations. So answer this honestly in the comments. There comes a moment in a man's life when everything finally clicks, when you stop blaming the dating world, stop blaming women, stop blaming yourself, and you start seeing the pattern with absolute clarity. Dating expectations don't hurt you because they exist. They hurt you because you keep giving power to the wrong ones, and the moment you withdraw that power, the entire game changes. Here's the truth no one tells you. You don't need to become colder. You don't need to pretend you don't care. You don't need to play games, hide your emotions, or turn yourself into some hardened version of a man you don't even recognize. What you need is alignment. Alignment between who you are, what you want, and what you refuse to tolerate. Because when a man's inner world becomes steady, everything outside him starts to make sense. You no longer feel threatened by unrealistic expectations. You see them for what they are: projections, fantasies, unhealed wounds, and narratives shaped by comparison. You stop chasing the woman who needs you to entertain her insecurities. You stop over-investing in people who only understand temporary connection. You stop adjusting your worth to match someone else's emotional confusion. And here's the part most men underestimate. When you raise your standards, you don't lose women. You lose the women who were never meant for the man you're becoming. You stop attracting chaos and start attracting clarity. You stop attracting indecision and start attracting intention. You stop attracting those who are impressed by your potential and start attracting those who respect your discipline, your peace, and your vision. Your power in dating isn't found in being perfect. It's found in being consistent. A consistent man is unforgettable. A man with emotional steadiness is rare. A man who knows his values is magnetic. and a man who stands firm in his expectations, without arrogance, without hostility, without desperation, becomes the kind of man no one forgets meeting. So here's your final truth. The world may have unrealistic expectations. People may project their fantasies and fears onto you. But when you know who you are, no one, not a trend, not a dating app, not a temporary connection, gets to define your worth. Before you scroll away, answer this in the comments. What's one expectation you'll never tolerate again? And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with a man who needs to hear it right now.